Hello everyone, my name is Anshu Sharma. I'm a faculty at Jindal Global Business School. I teach in the area of human resource management and organizational behavior with special emphasis on business ethics and responsible management education. In my current role, I'm also handling the assistant dean position for the MBA program and have been interacting with some of you during the interviews and other processes if you had any doubt in the past. And I also welcome you all, other than the registered candidates, the prospective students who are looking forward to this webinar to better understand the today's scenario, the business scenario. So if I speak correctly, we are joined in by few attendants in time. So let's still wait for another 5 minutes to give an opportunity to others to join, and then we shall begin. Okay, before, in the meantime, when we are waiting for others, let me just give you an overview of why I selected this topic for the webinar today. Now, you've seen I'm working from home. You all are staying at home for the benefit of your health and for the societal benefits. So, in a larger context, if we see, this is a very crucial time to discuss what does responsibility mean for us, not only for us as individuals, but also for us as responsible citizens, responsible students, responsible management educators. So in this context, I thought and I believe in the concept that this is a high time when these schools, which are, essentially regarded as a place of high placements and looking for profitable jobs, profitable businesses, but giving very little care to what is the contribution of businesses to society. And I think now is a very important time, an imperative time when we actually take a high stand on it. And we talk about how even business schools have started this conversation to commit themselves for a sustainable development. So we have a chat box here. I'm not able to hear any of you, but you can, think about, we'll keep this session an interactive session. Think about some of the questions you have in mind when you think about business schools, management jobs, managerial positions, CEO packages, and their impact on society at large that you've seen in the last 10, 15 years. You all are adults and you are reading the newspapers and have been in constant touch with, how businesses have responded to many changing environmental issues. Recently, with the COVID, I would just, before we formally begin with the scope of the webinar, I'll just ask you, how have you seen, just respond in the chat box, how do you see businesses responding to COVID times? I have Abhay, Abhijit, I think, Divya. Any of you, just feel free to give your points, questions, any rhetoric around how businesses are constantly responding to these times. If you can see, there is a chat box for you. You just mention your comments in that chat box. Have you seen any large business groups coming around and contributing in these times? Okay, so let me just give you some time to think and ponder over this issue. Before we move on, let me just take you through the need for this topic. And when we say responsible management education, What is the first thing that comes to your mind when we say responsibility and business? Are you able to think about these two words together, or do you still feel that these two words are very difficult to walk together? So, one side you're talking about responsibility, on the other side, hello. So far no questions. So it's already 5/7. So let's begin with the session. And I think 20 of the attendees we have. Okay. So when I designed this webinar, I had three important goals in mind, which I would like to share with you as prospective management students. So you would have all heard about United Nations. More or less, when I'm taking interviews, many of you even give me your experience of working in MUNs and how model United Nations. You have already taken some experience of how United Nations are pulling in all the nations together to for a better life on this planet, for a better world, for good citizenship behaviors. So now, keeping in context business schools, United Nations have come up with principles of management education, keeping in view responsibility in mind. Now, if you remember sustainable development goals, you would have all studied in your 11th and 12th environmental sciences, any business study book that you would have referred. What we are talking about in this webinar is how business schools are helping evolving the students into responsible leaders. Now, if you see future of work, recently your World Economic Forum had come up with competencies of future managers. Now, what is required from future managers? Now, think about a time where everything is taken up by computers, artificial intelligence, technology. Most of our work are driven by technology. What will be the role of a human? How is a human cognitively, psychologically, emotively different from a machine? Now, here is a very interesting point that WF, just take a, I'll share it after the webinar if you wish. Just take a quick read of that document. It's very interesting. It says that more or less all your intellectual capability can be converted into robotics, right? So a machine can be replicated to think about rationally, to take a database decision, to think about more or less replicating your neurons. But the higher order thinking, for example, questions of morality, questions of what is right and wrong, questions of what is suitable in this context. Am I culturally appearing sound to the person? Am I being contextually intelligent? Am I being emotionally intelligent? A machine would never be able to do that, at least in the next 10 to 12 years or 10 to 20 years in the lifetime that you will experience work. So, as far as your jobs are concerned, it would require less of an aptitude issue, but more of a emotive issue, more of a morality issue. So future of work, unpredictability of the jobs will make future managers more susceptible to intuitive based thinking rather than data based. Of course, I am not in any way undermining the role of analytics here, but usage of data to take a right decision also requires you to think about what decision is to be taken. So data cannot only always lead you to the right direction. It can only give you a glimpse of the problem. That's my second arena. Third point of discussion would be, what are we doing? What are business schools? So my side of the table. So one discussion is your side of the table. What is in for you? And the second discussion is, how are business schools now making their education, the way we teach, the way courses are designed, the way research is done, the way industry interaction happens, how is it changing? A key feature, if you have observed, and maybe at your level you would not be able to see it because you are not in direct touch with industry, what I have observed and what these schools have observed over time, all global businesses, when they talk of leadership, when they talk of employment, they talk of a human touch here, like I was telling you. So sustainability, ethics, morality all become an important part of employment. It's not only a philosophical assumption that the business are making, but also a key feature when somebody is picked up over the other person. So let's begin that these are my three underlying scopes, and let's begin with the first one. Now, when I talk to you about why are you attending this webinar, right? So what is your take in it? Now, as you understand, when I'm saying and when we are designing courses for you, we are not designing courses for you for the first job that you're going to get here. That is your placement, very, tricky business. Now, when you talk about placements, of course, first job is important, but first job is not the only thing that one keeps over time. It is usually seen that a person switches the first job in the next 1 to 2.5 years. So an average first job means that's the first stepping stone towards your business. Now that means when you are creating your business ladder, or you are joining your family business, or you are choosing to take up a career, it's not about the first 2 to 3 years. You are creating a long pipeline of work for you. Now, it is your career that we are talking about. Now, you are the ones who are going to build businesses, take decisions that today your father, that today the current CEO or the vice presidents of the companies are taking. So when you read about in newspapers that companies have donated these many amount of money for development of a village, or development of people below the poverty line, it is people who are taking that decision, it is businesses who are taking that decision, and somewhere down the line it will be you who would be taking those decisions. So it's not only, so when you take MBA and you think about MBA as a job, it is not a job. It will become your career over a period of 5 to 6 years, and ultimately it will convert into your life choices. So what choices you make? Do you want to just make it a job where you earn money, or you want to convert it into a meaningful career where after 10 years down the line, where 15 years down the line, you actually think about that, yes, I've made a significant contribution in my field. Now, nowadays, if you see in the COVID, you're talking about essential services. We are talking about how doctors, nurses, and other people, the policemen, and others on the front line are handling bravely the problem of COVID, right? And we take so much pride in their work. On the contrary, if you see yourself making a job, minting money, and after some years of your life, thinking about what is the meaning of my career? All these questions came up when students from big business schools, elite business schools started thinking about that. What is the value addition I'm making? Even some of you have read about a book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. So that small interesting book talks about in a very beautiful way that it's not all about the money, and it's not always about the money. It is about the meaning of your work, right? So that's where we start, and that's where you give another perspective to what businesses and what business schools do nowadays. There's a famous saying by Winston Churchill: "The price of greatness is responsibility." Here, let's see how responsibility plays into the business world. I'll come back to this discussion points, and I would want you to actually give me some questions in the question box. Now, here is a very famous controversy of Nike. And we have all been, of course, part of it, part of the game, part of this Nike world. Many of our participants would know or would not know that there was a huge controversy in this era about child labor. So people from children with less than 10 years of age, 8, 9-year old, were involved in making shoes, very premium shoes for Nike. Now these football players, if you see the two pictures I've given to you, slaves of poverty and slaves of fashion. Now, as business, think about a business person, a branding agency who had branded "Just Do It," a famous tagline of Nike. Now, these small incidents, although just think about you are buying a sports shoe which is made by a kid of 8 to 9 years old. So this is a philosophical question, but of course that questions the responsibility of the business. So first of all, when I was talking to you about the discussion points, I would like you to question and answer and think about, even if you don't have any answer, what should be the corporate's responsibility? What is the prime responsibility of a corporate, a firm, a business? Why do we do business? Many of you would be from family businesses, many of you would be consumers, many of you would be somewhere in the value chain of a business as suppliers, as beneficiaries, not direct customers, but you would have consumed something bought by your parents. So think about in a larger context, and in today's world, the moment we get up, be it a Dant Kanti or a Colgate, we are bombarded with products right from the morning till we sleep. So what is the first responsibility of a corporate? Who are they responsible to? And when we talk about that, responsibility is the first primary thing. If you want to become great, then who are we responsible to? Should a business school be responsible to corporates, or should a business school be responsible to the society at large? What are we responsible for? Shouldn't our core responsibility be only towards a good placement, a package, and then placing you in our industry? So let's talk about responsibility first. Any questions? Welcome. Okay. I see 21 attendees here. If you have any question, okay. Let me see. I think some of you have posed a question. Let me see if I am able to expand it. Okay, so Divya asked, safety of consumers should be the core responsibility of the corporates. Absolutely. So when we talk about safety, now here, some of the questions. Safety of the consumers. Divya, Abhay talks about responsibility towards customers, to the society and workers. Deborah Ray talks about, other than contributions made in money, certain companies such as Maruti Suzuki has started manufacturing ventilators. Absolutely. Rishabh talks about COVID should be a ephemeral hindrance and hence the business should restore back, I feel. Absolutely. Okay. Let's give it a thought. So thank you for your questions. Now, when we talk about corporate's responsibility, and very rightly said by some of the participants, that they are responsible towards the society at large, they're responsible towards the customer. And when we talk of business ethics, it's no longer an oxymoron. So when we say an oxymoron, subjects that cannot be taught together. Now, business earlier was thought of only as a profit-making entity. So when I remember times when there was an important saying during interviews, sell this pen at any cost. So when we say sell this pen at any cost, what are we trying to say? No matter what happens, no matter what are the ends, you still make business, and hence business becomes the bottom line. There's no room for ethics. Don't cry like a baby. So all these emotions, the need for empathy, the need to think about others, was a different set of people. So if you are into business, you have to be a hardcore salesman. You would have listened to all these terms. A hardcore means you are dead inside. You shouldn't think about emotions of others. You should be hardcore internally. That's one. Now, when we talk about it over a period of time, you would see that we have changed as businesses and how we understand businesses from free will, choice to priority. Now, when we say free will, it was seen that it's the choice of the business. You want to be profitable. What choices you make will depend upon what choices as a business you made to deliver to the customer. It was never a priority. Customer was never a priority. If you are an intelligent customer, you would find a loophole in the business proposition. So I'll just give you an example. Just look at this controversy. What happened in Nestle? Now here, very rightly, when Divya and Ray talked about customers, think about what are they doing to the, so here is a customer, an African woman, and here is a small child, the indirect beneficiary of the product. So what happened in this controversy? And here, just to understand, at that moment of time, it wasn't a controversy at all. So when you read about this concept, so what happened with Nestle? Nestle was selling its infant food in Africa, and it was saying that for your health of the child or the infant of the or the health of the mother, it is better to wean the child early from mother's milk, as this product of their, the infant formula, is better for the child's growth, right? So the nutrient content in Nestle infant formula is better than mother's milk. This is how they sold the product in Africa, and it was a huge selling product at that time. Now, if you see from, if you have a first-hand observation of the time when we are talking about it in the 70s and the 80s, it never became a controversy. This product sold, just like any other infant formula sells. Now, if you flip the coin, what happened over a period of time? It was seen that they are trying to replace their product with a mother's milk by selling that this is more nutrient than a mother's milk, which is not true scientifically, right? So over a period of time, this controversy became a very big hit, and very commonly misplaced assumptions about what branding is changed over a period of time. Now think about people, again coming back. You working as a manager in Nestle, and you are branding a product in Africa. Now, again, going back to a big rhetoric, sell it at any cost, right? But selling at any cost is not what we are promoting right now. Now, even Nestle has changed. Look at the formula milk now. They have to clearly specify now that the formula milk is not better than mother's milk. So, over a period of time, if we see, even businesses, be it a hard way, by a lesson, or by a legal compliance, they have moved from free will to priority. Now there's no choice but to listen to the customer, listen to the needs of the customer, and more than legality, you have to move towards what is right, right? So when we say business schools commit to sustainable development, it is not a choice anymore. It is not a compliance. Nobody is telling you are not legally liable to do it. On the contrary, you have to commit it to remain sustainable in the business itself. So now, if you see, we have moved from the conversation of corporate responsibility to corporate sustainability. So here are the two things that you should think about as, as a new generation. It is not only my responsibility to take care, it's my job as a business for my own survival. I have to be ethical, I have to be sustainable. Otherwise, I'll just go out of business because I can't fool people for a long time. That's one. The other in the last conversation that we move is the role of an individual in corporate responsibility, social entrepreneurship, and education. Now, when we talk about you, when we talk about you grooming you in a process, so if you see, MBA is a process to groom you to become a manager. So you will be groomed for financial understanding, for marketing understanding, for accounts, for business, statistics, analytics, whatnot. But over a period of time, you're also instilled that when you are grooming your aptitude over a period of 1.5 years before you finally sit for your placements, you are also become sensitive to the needs of what not to do, right? So here is the role of individuals. So when we say that, when we say as a business school that we commit to making students responsible leaders, when we commit towards students to think differently, to ask questions, to uprightly question the assumptions, why can't we? We as business schools are not here to cater the industry to mint money. We are not a capitalist system. We are thinkers. We are a thinking machine. We are a process by which we will convert you as raw materials into thinking individuals. So when you join corporations, you form corporations of the tomorrow. You are the future of the businesses that we would like to see. Uh, I would just show you another. Look at this picture. I was really not shocked because, but if you see, what is the first impression that comes to your mind? Of course, there can be various narratives to this. Still waiting. So let me just rephrase my question. So when you look at this picture, and I've titled it especially for the luxury, fashion, and animal rights, of course, there can be multiple perspectives to it. If you are hired by Louis Vuitton, or if you are hired by such companies, what will be your stand? What do you think about the future of the leather industry in India? What do you think about with cosmetic industry? What are your opinions on changing and making the cosmetic industry more sustainable? How can you do it? That is my question to you. Any thoughts? I'm also open to counter thoughts. What are your philosophical assumptions about a human right and the rights of animals? Are they comparative? What are the different Eastern and the Western views of looking at what is ethically right? Anyone? So we have Nitya, Prem. Any questions? Okay. Animal killing. Rishabh, if you could just let me know the detail of your, is it a question or are you trying to give a point here? Would you like to join the conversation? Anyone who wants to speak? Hello? Any questions on this? Okay. So let us not, let me just give you as a food of thought and think about it. Just give it a thought. These are two parallel ways in which we design businesses. How are we affecting the who are using and who are being used? So that's the first question. Let's go ahead. Is there anyone who wants to speak at this point? Okay. Then there are some other parameters on which you should think about. Now, there are several cases, and newspapers, magazines are full of these thoughts. Even if you see, you are now a generation of Netflix and Amazon. Just think about series that you have heard about, even Dirty Money and many other series that are there on Vox about corruption, bribery, breach of employee rights, environmental issues, right? All these false product differentiation. Fox case, Volkswagen case, very famous, infamous, I would say. HSBC money laundering cases, counterfeits. In India, there are so many cases. If you see, so many organizations already caught for artificial scarcity or making. So all these are value chain questions in a business. When you start from ideation to product delivery to customer, the entire value chain has small incidents where your morality is tested. Think about an event when you just copy somebody's idea, plagiarism, right? When you just plagiarize somebody's idea and use it. Patents are there to, control such a situation. Counterfeits. Now, supply chain, marketing, HR, finance, accounts, all these are full of business cases where fraudulent activities have taken place in the past. Now, why are we talking about this? We are talking about this because these corporate scandals became at a point a conversation issue among elite Ivy League business schools. People questioned the way students were raised. These managers were made in Harvard, Stanford, Kelly, Case Western. All these universities came together to sit and they did a roundtable on how can we make our students, how can we take businesses one step ahead. What do we do? Now, if you see, if you've done, most of you would be from a commerce background. Your profit and loss statements do not always really, reveal the cost the companies internalize on the society. There are various uncompensated costs that you, when you do business, you give to society. All these are called hidden taxation. Now, hidden taxation on society, if you see some of the examples I gave you, you're dumping waste illegally. You are testing your cosmetics on animals, causing harm to the environment, breaching somebody's right to work based on some stereotypical or racial assumptions. All these come under hidden taxation. Why these big CEOs, vice presidents of the company were not able to think of these subtle things at that point? Think about a situation why they were not able to overcome, because the way they were trained over a period of 2 years was to think about profitability as a bottom line. Now, in this, when we talk about principles of responsible business, we'll talk about how this curriculum designing changed for business schools to incorporate three things: profit, people, and planet. Now, when we talk of this, when we are designing our modules, we as business schools, we have to think about three things in mind: that we are training you on profitability, so econometrics, financial management, accounts, marketing, all these comes under profitability. When we talk of people, the second pillar of the bottom line, we talk about worker rights, we talk about customer engagement, we talk about your citizenship behavior, your contribution as a global citizen, taking care of the people, and last but not the least, the planet. So when we talk of responsibility of a business towards the planet, these are the three prime considerations when we design a MBA program now in the current phase. Moving ahead, when we examined our business modules, there are a few things, and we will come back to this if we have time in the webinar at the end. These are some critical questions. Just take a look, think about responsibilities of the MNCs in countries where the legal framework is not that strong to save their own citizens, where regulations can be easily manipulated. Think about how these multinationals should invest and actually bring a change in the rights of these citizens, right? And I think once we are about to end our webinar, you will be able to think about these questions. Now, paradigm shift happened in the modern business when we said that it's time to question the wrong assumptions. The three wrong assumptions were: number one, money is the purpose of business. Money cannot go with ethical considerations. Three, people are simple beings of self-interest. That means even a small carrot and stick approach can be used to better, manipulate businesses. Now here you have to understand, and before you step into a management school, that corporates, businesses are nothing but deep human institutions. You are interacting with humans, and hence that human element has to be there in all your decisions. Some of you, some cricket players who are interested in cricket, students amongst you, some of you would be fan of Virat Kohli and others. You would have read this some time back. So in an interview, he said that for him and his fitness philosophy, it was a point he has to rethink about his branding associations with Pepsi, given the fitness philosophy he follows, and how it shapes his thinking on the brand endorsements. Nothing right and wrong here. Think about a time, again, about celebrity endorsements, and it has on, a contradictory effect on the end customers. Now, again, a thoughtful consideration. Similar things have been done by many Hollywood uh, celebrities too. This is one of a case. Now, corporate responsibility, if you see, we have incorporated three things when we talk about responsibility in a school. Legal compliance, of course, economics, as I stated earlier. So basic courses, legality, business ethics, and larger philanthropic interests of the society. So if you look at these three models, these are three different models. And again, I would like to invite your questions on the same, how these three models are different. Which is a more inclusive model of thinking about businesses and its responsibility? Any questions? Any answers? Out of the three model, how do you think the third model question today? So there's a question. In today's world of business, or that in the future, does ethics and empathy come before the profit of the organization? That is my precise question, Ray. And the similar question I'm raising in these three, when you see these three models. Now here, if I see the first model, it talks about philanthropy and ethics as cherry on the cake. So your prime responsibility is ethics. The second model, if you see that your core responsibility are all interconnected. So you are there to earn a profit. You are there for legal compliance. You are there for to maintain ethical standards of the organization. But now, can you just question or give me your viewpoint on the concentric way of thinking about responsibility? If you understand this Venn diagram, if you see now here answering your question, the philanthropic view is the larger circle in which all others, the legal compliance, the ethical concerns of the business are all included in this. The way you think about business, when you start, business is nothing but you're giving a solution to the problem. Nowadays, when you're thinking about entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship is coming in a big way, especially in India and in the developing context. That means if there are social problems, what entrepreneurs do is giving a solution to the problem and earning a profit out of it. Of course, so profit is the core. It still is the core, but it's a very small part of what is the business all about. Earn a profit, be legally compliant, serve the people, be relevant in the society. So if you see, and let's move on to this concentric circle theory, it has moved from a pyramid structure to a concentric circle structure. The way we think about business. So it's not that profit is the largest goal. No, we have just reversed the model itself. We say profit is one of the part. Even if you have to give a share of your profit to build legality, to build ethical structure, to be socially responsible, you do it as a business. And you've seen in COVID times how organizations have responded to worker needs, to the needs of the nation, coming out in large amounts to serve the country. That's part of a larger philanthropic goal of a corporation. Uh, Pushan Joshi, do you have a question? Just type it in the question box. Let us move ahead quickly. Okay. Now, principles of responsible management education. Now, it was an initiative launched by United Nations wherein we are trying to incorporate these 10 principles in your MBA curriculum. So, human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. You would have all read briefly about these 10 principles. Followed by this, they had detailed companies on more than, so if you're looking not only as students and business schools, companies have enrolled in UN Global Compact, and now they have to show certain standards in all these three domains: human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. And these companies are rated on their corporate sustainability goals every year. Now, think about a time you will be interviewing, you would be sitting for interviews in one of these companies who are already aligned, and they have aligned their value chain on these models, these four principles. Now, when we talk of sustainable development, it's not only concerned for a business, for an environmental school or a business school. Now, sustainable development goals are even given to governments at large. So, as an Indian government, we would also be liable in incorporating these 17 goals. As companies, if you see, we don't have time in today's webinar, but we can discuss in detail in the next one what companies do, what is the industry doing with regard to these SDGs. Now, you can pick up any: poverty, hunger reduction, well-being, quality of education, gender equality. You would see most of the companies nowadays coming up front using their CSR funds. Not only that, are designing specialized products so as to align their product line, their service line for sustainable development. Now, as a business school, if you see, there are three things primarily that we need to do. Now, I'll just skip in the interest of time, as I'm only left with 10 minutes and I have to take your questions. We can come back to the prime. Now, there are 6 principles that as business school we incorporate in our 2-year program. First is the purpose. So we need to develop the capabilities of the student. So the purpose is not only to place you, but also to look at the kind of jobs you're placed in. Purpose, make your careers more purposeful. Your curriculums engage you, the academic activities engage you in social responsibility tasks. Fourth is the way we design our educational framework, materials, courses, degrees in each of the programs. So if you see, if you're looking for an undergrad program, a BBA program, a BCom program, an MBA program, all programs together will focus on sustainability and ethics in their degrees. Research. Now we have research centers which talk about social innovation. We have an ideation center, just like an entrepreneurship cell, which works on you to think about and create sustainable solutions for business problems. Fifth is the partnership. Now, partnership, as business school, we engage with business houses to work on real-time projects to meet their civil society engagement goals. So if you see model in which industry works, industry takes up a certain segment of a society and works towards social and environmental issues. Hence, from a business school, they pick students to think about like a think tank along with industry, along with academicians to give them real time to work on real time CSR projects, which comes under partnership and dialogue, if you see, and you would have engaged in when you will join business school also, you would see that government agencies and customers, media, civil society organizations, NGOs all come together in seminars and lectures, in conferences where you present your research. So that this dialogue, why is this dialogue needed? So that one perspective does not become the story, the main story of how businesses are run. There are different stakeholders in a business, and one core corporation is only one stakeholder in the entire story. So stories of minorities, story of other side of the stakeholders are as important and as critical for responsibility and sustainability of their products. Now, I'll take you to one specific slide that I made especially for this, so that you can just get a gist of uh, the outcomes. So if you see, there are three broad pillars under which we evaluate these six principles. So student outcomes in the order, in the backward order. So student outcomes, faculty outcome, and at large campus outcomes. Now, all these, if you see, and you can just give yourself a little thought on how purpose-driven, value-driven education can actually be institutionalized in a business sense. Now, students are expected to take up internships in social fields, take up final placements in as important roles in NGOs and social sectors, in the CSR divisions of big corporations. They are given feedback on how their qualitative, their human values are as important as their marks on a mark sheet. They are encouraged to participate in service learning projects. They are encouraged to go on student exchange programs on human rights, on any of the SDG goals. So, as a prime member, as a proud member of the UN Global Compact, JGBS has several opportunities for sending students to negotiations and engaging in negotiations, sitting on the table of think tanks with industry to think about solutions that are societal relevant. Now, life projects, as we discussed, all these are student outcomes, let alone, so these expectations are not only for the students, but also for us as faculty. We have to specialize faculty for sustainable development education. We have to train them, we have to research and contain partnership, consult industry as to where they can make certain changes in their product line, in their value chain, how outreach is planned, what important dialogue has to happen in the industry. All these are important things. So coming back to, because we are left with just 5 minutes of the webinar, I'll open. You can just ask me if you want to go back to any slide. We can just, these are some of the end notes. And thank you. Open to questions, thoughts, not only questions, some thoughts that you have where you can make a contribution. What are the areas of interest that you would like to see? Any questionable management decision, any questionable business decision that you've read over a period of time? You can think about that. Any concept in business studies, any concept as a career, business as a career that you think you find questionable, you can just ask. Okay. So we have, do you want to start, Bhushan? Abhijit, Aishwarya? Any areas of contribution that you would like to make? So I have with me Siri, Tanya, Tanish, Siddharth, Sachi, Rishabh, Radhika. Okay, so this was a glimpse of what we do, what we try to design, how business schools are no more a placement finding agencies. They are institutes of relevance, they are institutes of eminence, especially if we talk about Jindal Global Business School. When we talk of global, we are incorporating global standards as per the other business schools, but at the same time, we would like to have very strong understanding of the local environment. We would want our students to be very sensitive to the fact about the context in which our business is done in India, what kind of people we are serving, what are their cultural rootage, how can we be more suitable as we can be more suitable to businesses as well as we are responsible citizens. We are responsible business citizens. We contribute towards society and make managerial positions, even the role of managers, as essential services in times to come. So some of you may not be doctors or engineers or other professionals, but you can also contribute in your own way to the way we develop this country, to the way we become global citizens. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. There are certain questions that are there. What are the options after completing BBA? Okay, so options, if you say now, unlike when we thought about placing students, we now not only think in terms of corporates, we also think about NGOs, and many undergrad students are placed in good profiles with Teach India and many important NGOs in the country, as well as the CSR divisions of industry. These are old stories which have a very importance. Okay. The image does show the point of animal brutality which is attached to the picture. Okay. So Bhushan has written, talking about emotions, a lot of books like Rich Dad Poor Dad directly or indirectly states that emotion should be kept aside, and just to quote a few lines, let your brain emotion be in your favor. Fear, emotions, and desires keep people trapped. In that case, what exactly does one do when one's ethics are questioned? Now, Bhushan, I would here again like to ask you, can a human be a human without emotions? at what point your identity stops without, when you say that, is there any point when you can behave without your emotions? I doubt that. So in fact, when you talk about ethics or value, I would, that is where we see and where the conversation is going. And one of them has commented that this is old story. Of course, this story has come to a point where it needs your attention and where we've gone ahead. Okay. Frame is written, please tell me about the placements after the course of MBA. I think this is a question, Tanish. You should ask the admissions team. If we do aggressive selling, then the performance of another section of business will be reduced. Leather industry is working with a lot of responsibility now, of course. Yes. But when? Now, here is the question is, was it a proactive decision or it came after some introspection and some civil disengagement? I think the concentric circle model makes the best sense. Human rights and the rights of animals should be put at the same level. Now, how MSME deal with the current scenario of COVID? How is JGBS BBA different from DU, symbiosis, and MS? So, Sri, this is the question. I think one, you should do a homework on this, how it is different. Just read the course structure and go ahead, talk to admissions. I think the way we design BBA and the way we deliver is very different from the ones that you have mentioned. Do you think corporate sectors are only worked for their profits rather than taking care of the customer and responsibility? Do you think corporate sectors are only work? So Arunjan Singh, we are not taking a stand for or against. We are being sensitized to the fact that Ray has questioned a very pertinent question, a question today for business or in future. Not able to see any other question. Do you really think business are working properly towards the commitment for sustainable development? In India, Anuranjan, if you see, we have just started this rhetoric of sustainable development, but I'm sure that this will go ahead and this will make India will make a strong contribution in sustainable development. For your information, I will just give you a food for thought. Go and check the Green Text Index. The Green Text Index is given by the Geographic Channel, takes about the consumptions of the countries, and India is one of the most green consumption country. So we rely on substances, we consume substances that are more sustainable. So I think we are moving in the right direction as a country, and as a business school too, we have taken a step in the right direction. Any other question? Okay, one of the participants have written about donations by corporates. Now, here is an important, interesting, and again, because we are short of time. On one hand, you can also think about corporate hypocrisy at this time. On one hand, there is a passion of charity donations, doing a lot of CSR, but at the end, in your core business model, you are a corrupt businessman, right? So that again is a question of corporate sustainability. Is it a corporate hypocrisy to look good, to have a entitled self-interest? You do a lot of CSR, you donate money, but at the larger part of your value chain is dwelling upon corruption, bribery, unfair practices to employees. That's also an important thing. Okay, could you also stress on which of the three business models are much close to perfection, keeping in mind that the industries are going to revolutionize soon rather than one of them are the most suitable to play a critical role in the future? So if I see this a very good question, Bhushan, if you see we are moving towards entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, we are going towards organizations are looking inwards as to how they can better serve the customer. So at this time, the third model, the concentric model, we have to go beyond the long dated model of profitability, keeping in mind. We have to move towards value creation. So value creation, societal development becomes the first goal, the larger goal, and an outcome of it. One of the outcome is profitability, yes, but that is not the sheer goal. And that is where we are moving. It is, of course, as business students and as commercial, you have been consumers all your life till now. So at this point of time, it is very difficult to understand and digest this view. But yes, it in your due course of time, this will become the talk of the town. Value creation would have more importance than profitability in the long run for the organization. If I answer your question, or if I understood it correctly. Now, Tanishq, there are several questions. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to answer all of them because I'm not able to read everything in time. So Bhushan says, what I think is another principle is that companies should reach positively to emerging social priorities and expectations and try to answer them, correct? And maybe the most important of the guiding principles of CSR for a company is to balance the shareholder interest against those of the community. Of course, um, Aishwarya, I completely agree with you to balancing this shareholder and community interest. I think business sustainability or corporate sustainability, when you say, is a very larger, it's a larger goal than CSR. CSR is a very small attempt, a very niche attempt to. It's, I think it's a charity begins at home. It's the first step. It's the first baby step towards becoming sustainable. So you are earning a X profit and you're giving 2 to 3% of your profit for societal development. Yes, that's a good first step as a CSR model, but it cannot be your business model. Your sustainability, your ethical conduct has to be integrated in the entire value chain. I think we can take last 2, 3 questions, and for other queries, you can just mail me. My email ID is here. anshu@jgu.edu.in, and feel free to think about to question the ongoing assumptions of business, how business works, and business nowadays is not a tight water packed model that you replicate this model every time and it will work. If you see nowadays, business models have been disruptive. A small company from a IT company can disrupt an automobile company, which never used to happen earlier. So if you see now, these different intermingling of two different sectors are coming in, and hence business models are going to change for sure. Business sustainability is going to come in a big way, and given world has faced the crisis, they are looking for survival. People are looking for humanistic values. We are back on survival of the fittest. Hence, the question of sustainability is here to come. So there's no escape from it. Think about it. Stay in touch. Feel free to write back to me for any questions, counterintuitive thoughts. All the best. It was a very good interaction with you and look forward to more questions ahead. Take care. Bye-bye. You have been a lovely audience. Too many questions. I'm sorry I could not answer everything. I'll just take up a last question. Radhika, isn't profitability dominates value creation goals? So CSR has just been the side activity of the organization. Now, again, open to question. Others can think about it. Radhika, I'm not in a position to give you a detailed conversation on it, but yes, the first question that you asked, isn't the profitability what dominates the value creation goal? That question itself is questionable now. So this is what we have been discussing in the last 1 hour, that domination of profitability, value creation itself, the meaning of value, the meaning of creation of value to the customer has changed. So we have to rethink about how do we understand what will be profitable in the future, how are we creating value on all these lines. Thank you, and I think I would just end the webinar on this note. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.